Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome, or good morning, I think it is, to the Insights and Innovation series. Daylight savings throwing me off. The Insights and Innovation series for this special Tuesday, a short week, but a great week because we've got some fabulous partners in terms of Amazon and Twitch that are here and joining us for this update and this presentation. It's entitled Connecting Content and Culture. And are we going to talk about the summer I turned pretty, Francie? I
It
think
will
we might,
feature, yes. It
might
might feature
feature.
in terms of my household and the impact it's having on my marriage. But yes,
And
mate, it will also feature as a key tentpole program that we
look,
have had, and that's going to evolve for next year as well.
yeah, and I'm still waiting till I turn pretty as well. So I'd like to welcome to the Insights Innovation series the wonderful Francie and Lawrence, who is taking over the presentation now to walk us through connecting culture and content. Over to you, mate.
Well, firstly, a big thank you to Sam. And I hope everyone had a cracking long weekend. I know it was a long weekend in Sydney, which meant hopefully it was slightly more relaxing in the other markets as well. And I also thought I'd be remiss not just to welcome Camille as well, a new starter at the IMAA. I think this is her first presentation for the Insights and Innovation series. Now, I've said to her that we are going to be setting a high standard. She can be the judge of that at the end. But a big welcome, Camille. You joined an incredible business, and we're so proud to be partners with you guys. So as as Sam mentioned, my name is Alexander Frank. So I look after all of the independent agencies here in Australia and New Zealand. I'm also very lucky as well to have Lawrence Bond, who is a cracking name, by the way, Lawrence Bond. And he has recently moved here from the UK and he heads up Twitch for the APAC region. So the idea today is we wanted to cover off kind of three key areas. Knowing not to give a pitch on Amazon and Prime Video, but more around giving an overview of like what we're seeing from a streaming space right now, how we're seeing that evolve and innovate into the future. And then the part that I think is particularly interesting is the cut that that can make with culture. And I think so many brands that we talk with and we design and build with, owning those key cultural moments is so important. And I think a platform like Twitch does a better job than anywhere else in the kind of media and marketing space right now. So how that underpins it, I think plays a kind of incredible role for what the future looks like for Amazon ads. So look, I wanted to start and go back in the time machine. Now, I know this presentation is 45 minutes long, and I promise I'll move through it quite quickly. But one of the things that chatting with the team at Prime Video, they've spoken about that I thought was so instrumental is the importance of storytelling. And I think that was true 50,000 years ago in this country and what it meant in terms of survival, in terms of bonding, in terms of kinship. And I think the interesting thing is that, and I'll talk about how much has evolved. One thing that hasn't evolved is the importance of storytelling. Now, while that kind of campfire that we used to gather around has changed shape, and you can see here, that's actually Sam Buchanan's dad right there. But what hasn't changed is the importance of that connection, that moment in time that we were able to gather around, whether it was news, whether it was sport, whether it was an incredible kind of story that we told on a soapbox. All of the evolution that has happened, what really connects families, connects friends, is the ability to share stories together. Now, I put in a slide of home and away. Now, you guys are probably wondering, why is a slide of home and away in an Amazon ads presentation? And that Lawrence is actually the reason for that. When Lawrence moved out here, he said his whole understanding of Australia was home and away. And it made me realize that how iconic series and iconic moments can help shape the way we understand and we interpret something. But I think the kind of fascinating thing and the interesting thing that has happened if you view it through the lens of an advertiser or for an agency is that the way in which we consume that content has evolved so much. And this here is just a small slice of probably what you guys are dealing with every day, knowing that stories matter, knowing that connection matters. But the challenge has been we have democratized the way that when we go into a living room, what we watch. How do you guys navigate that? How do you find these key audiences that only 10 years ago were relatively easy from finding from a linear TV perspective? And I think the key part for me, if you were to group all of those kind of icons that you saw previously, was view it through the lens of streaming and call it linear TV and BVOD. And I think what's incredible to see, and I'm always conscious of chatting with an audience that knows what's happening from a content consumption perspective, but there has just been such a seismic shift that has happened from linear TV through to streaming. And that's not just Prime Video, although Prime Video plays a role of that. It's the role of the democratization of when you switch on that television, when you go home now, it's not just about, 9 News, 7 News, or Home and Away. You have millions of choices. But if you can group it into a streaming perspective and then a TV perspective or a linear perspective, that helps create a delineation to hopefully make your lives a little bit easier from a planning perspective. But what's ultimately happened is that if you were to view it through the lens of that linear TV and that BVOD perspective, and you guys would be dealing with this every day, is the reality is it's costing more to reach the same audience. So if you were planning a buy last year and you maybe had, call it $200,000 and you plan that again this year, the reality is you would simply be getting less reach for that audience. And that obviously makes sense when you view it through the lens of how people are ultimately consuming content. But it also means your job working with advertisers and agencies, with advertisers and clients and articulating that change is challenging, because everything I hear, I'm sure, Sam, you hear something quite similar, is that people want more with less. So when you have a consumption that is changing and almost going the inverse of that, it does create a tricky situation for advertisers and for agencies. But I think what should underpin, hopefully, your thinking as you move forward and you move into 2026 planning is, while there has been a shift from linear and BVOD towards streaming, for so long, so much of that audience was not ad enabled. So yes, you could make the argument a huge consumption was happening from an SVOD perspective, but such a small portion of that was ad enabled. But obviously in the last 12 months, we've seen a huge shift around what is ad enabled versus not ad enabled. Now, even this data here is actually slightly dated. I would dare say that would have grown to be even more than 22% of the cumulative minutes watched now are watched not just on an SVOD service, but an ad supported SVOD service. And I would dare say, if you guys were to look through your books of business, is your planning and are your bookings representative of that shift that's happened? I'd certainly say, I think Lawrence and I are at the coalface of seeing what that shift looks like. And while it is moving, I do think there's a challenge to the industry. Is it moving at the velocity that we're seeing the shift happen within Aussie living rooms? But the question also becomes, if there is a shift that is happening, whilst I think most of us could agree to that, and if you think about if you're going home tonight and what you're going to, put on the telly, that there is a real kind of a cut that gets made around SVOD services, probably the key thing to answer is it a unique audience? Because it's all good and well if that audience moves, but if it's the same audience that's moving, that's a very kind of, redundant conversation. But what we're seeing in our data, and I think some data from Samsung backs this up as well, is that there is a truly unique audience that exists on SVOD. But the part that I think is quite interesting is when you look at that exclusive audience, it tends to skew more towards the heartland of kind of media buying demographics. So very much 16 to kind of 44. As you move to those slightly older demographics, that linear TV audience absolutely plays an exclusive role. And I should call out here, while it might feel like, it's maybe putting the boot into linear TV, that's certainly not where we want to land with this. The idea, especially right now, is that they are complementary partners. And the part that I think we try and walk a tightrope with, as you guys do, is what does that complement look like? Should it be 50-50? Should it be a little bit more skewed towards SVOD? I think that's the direction it's heading. And I think the goal for us here is to help you on that journey to build comfort and confidence that when you're having these conversations with your clients, that you should know you're in a good place to say there's a shift from a consumption perspective. There is a unique audience that's there. And ideally, if we can make it easy to buy, easy to trade, and be priced accordingly, that should ultimately put you in a really positive position. But the anchor to everything that we do, and this is true for Prime Video, but I think this is true for the broader SVOD service, is that it has to be anchored in incredible content. Like the learning that I think we've had here in Australia is, and dare I say, that we are a promiscuous country when it comes to our content. We will move around. So if you have that truly unique and engaging content, I think that is ultimately who wins the wall of eyeballs, and then potentially who wins the war with your brands as well. So what I wanted to share was just 4 kind of key programs that I think are going to help define and shape what the future looks like on Prime Video, but then really importantly, how that can work with a partner, with a platform like Twitch, which sits in our ecosystem. Now, the first one, and Sam mentioned this, is The Summer I Turned Pretty. Now, I joked, but I only half joking, is that my wife just became obsessed with this show for the last week. I literally lost her. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to lose my wife to, fantasizing over 20-year-old teenage boys. But it was a real insight into, if you can create these key cultural moments, people will find it. We saw a huge amount of brands jump off the back of this, of creating social content as well, which I think leans to the idea of, if you're a brand, how do you tap into these moments that are the new water cooler moments that we have on streaming services like Prime Video? In Australia, we know that if you want to connect culturally, sport matters. And from a Prime Video perspective, the biggest sports launch we have is only about a month away, and that will be the NBA. So Prime Video will have the rights to the NBA for the next 11 years. It's a global deal that will have a minimum 67 games per year. And the idea being, which I think is really interesting, is we'll be partnering with AWS, and the technology and the insights and the innovation that we will drive from a streaming perspective and a content perspective will also be underpinned by our AWS business. So it's not just evolving from a, call it, fragmentation standpoint, which will happen. We're certainly see that happening. I know that can be a cause of frustration for some consumers, but I think what's really cool with a business like Amazon is it can help innovate the way that we consume content as well. And something like the NBA is a really interesting example of how we bring it to life. From an AFL perspective, we'll also be launching a new docu-series that will be launching at the start of the season next year, that will be focused on the most current season that played out. But what I think is really cool is that this season, or this show, we're actually using the Drive to Survive creators, but we're bringing that into Australia for the AFL. And again, it's the idea of, we know the moments that matter. We know the things that matter in Australia, like the AFL. So how do we create content that derives that truly unique Aussie feeling, but do it in a way that's powered by the kind of the uniqueness and the innovation that Amazon can bring to it as well? This one here I think is particularly interesting. Now, some of our viewers may be familiar with Scarpetta. It's actually a book series. There's 120 million books that have been sold globally. This is a new series we'll launch next year. It's starring Nicole Kidman in the lead role. It's very much in the of prestige TV. Think Big Little Lies, really high production, engaging audience. But one thing I really like about it is that this is a total female created show. The writing, the production, and the cast is all female-led in what traditionally, through a crime lens, has tended to be a bit of a male-dominated zone. So incredibly excited. And if I look at the likes of a Big Little Lies, if I'm putting a bet down of what I think our big show next year could be next year, and maybe a bit of a surprise hit, this would be it. Elle is one that I think kind of taps into that nostalgia piece. So Elle is based on the Reese Witherspoon movie that came out, Legally Blonde, and this is her show.
Have we just lost Francie?
Sammy, can you guys still see me and hear me? Am I still?
Yeah, I've got you back. I think you dropped out 1 second. So just go rewind about a minute.
Oh, sorry. If that happens again, Sam, please just let me know. Apologies.
Yep.
So I was just saying the show previously was Elle, which is a take on Legally Blonde. The preview show of that, again, my prediction is that will be one of our biggest shows next year. But finally, Beast Games, and I think Beast Games is a really interesting thought experiment of, I spoke around originally the importance of telling stories and content and how much that's evolved. And like Mr. Beast is the best example of this in terms of growing his own audience from on YouTube. But the idea now of bringing that in to a canvas like Amazon and creating a unique show, this for me is a great example of bringing culture through to that premium content. So that will air early next year as well. And we're currently in conversations with brands around how we could localize that and create unique opportunities in Australia as well. That's from a content perspective, which I think I mentioned that what will always define, I think, the success of a business like Prime Video is incredibly compelling content. But I think where we can differentiate and define ourselves is the way we innovate from an ad product perspective. So the things that will be coming next year. And if you're an agency, I'd encourage you to think, how could I bring the premium content and increased reach of working with the likes of a Prime Video, but the innovative features that they have that very few can offer?
Lost you again. Francie, I think we lost you.
On an endemic brand. So if you're an example here, like a
Francie, we've lost you.
even further with something like interactive video ads.
Francie,
yes.
We lost you twice just then. Just get Lawrence to also prepare his computer because we might use his in the interim, but we just lost you twice. Just rewind a little bit.
No worries. So look, what I was saying was there are new developments that we will have for next year. One is pause ads, but there is the ability to actually make a purchase within a pause ad. So send something to your Amazon account. And then the other one here is the interactive video ads. So the idea, if you're watching a ad on your 65-inch TV, but if you have a product that you want to buy, with the click of a remote, you can actually jump click, add it to your Amazon basket and make a purchase, which is really exciting, I think. Now, can you guys hear me okay? I'm just conscious if that's jumping in or in and out at all.
That was perfect. Keep going.
Okay, fantastic. This here is an example of an interactive video ad, but this would be for a non-endemic brand. So the idea, if you imagine that Hyundai video ad is playing as you can see it, but you can book an appointment with Hyundai as well. So I think a lot of brands talk around the ability to connect content to commerce. And I think at Amazon, we're actually bringing that to life, which is incredibly exciting. And then finally here, this takes this to the next level. So if you see the idea of what we're calling a shopping carousel. So you imagine if your ad is playing, but if you're selling on Amazon and you have multiple products, the ability for that consumer sitting on their couch to flick through the different products you may have to then with one click, add that to their Amazon basket and purchase. We think that is really redefining the way in which the living room and the TV can become the storefront. Now, most of these should become available in Q1 next year, but if there's any curiosity about it, by all means, reach out to myself, as we'd love to take you through how we could bring something like this to life with your brands. Sam, is that playing okay?
It's not playing, but
not playing, but are you hearing me okay? Sorry?
We can hear you okay, yep.
Oh, perfect. And then the last part that I would call out, and I think it's a really interesting position to be in, because for the last 12 months, I've been in market very much talking around how incredible Prime Video is. And it truly is an incredible kind of service that we work with. But what got announced really recently, and a small plug, and I know it's a little bit salesy, so apologies to the IMAA team, is that from in a couple of weeks' time, you'll actually be able to also buy Netflix via Amazon's DSP. And I think this goes to that idea of anchoring around premium content and how much that matters. And if we can make that really easy to buy for our agency partners, whether that is Prime Video or whether that is Netflix, we are now completely agnostic around what that looks like. All we want to do is make sure that you know that there is a simple port of call to buy both Prime Video and Netflix amongst other services as well. So look, we think this is an incredibly exciting development and something that we'd obviously love to talk to all of you guys about in the future as well. Now, I mentioned the kind of start of the presentation was very much designed around from a content perspective and an innovation. But I think what underpins what we see so many brands wanting to do with us is working with us from a cultural perspective. And that's why Lawrence is here with us today. So he's going to take you through how Amazon can redefine brands working with culture, but particularly how that's done through the lens of Twitch.
Yep, and I'll jump on your screen here, so hopefully you can hear me okay. Thanks, Francie. So yeah, culture is obviously a key theme of this presentation, and what I want to share with you guys now is how gaming really is now becoming a central pillar of culture, but also what Twitch's perspective on gaming and where the direction of travel we're seeing in the upcoming 12 months. So it probably doesn't come as a surprise to you that gaming is huge. Obviously, gaming is now becoming such a central part of culture. And what may be a surprise, though, is the gaming industry actually is the leading force in the biggest entertainment categories. Last year, we saw gaming revenue reach 184 billion globally, which is obviously staggering. And that's actually more than movies and music combined, which I think does come as a surprise to some people. And gaming doesn't necessarily always maybe get that same sort of spotlight that we see other categories in entertainment getting. So when we think about culture, obviously, culture is very much made of significant moments. And I want to talk about one of the big significant moments in culture and gaming that we see coming up soon. And that's the launch of Grand Theft Auto 6. So originally slated for this year, which has now been pushed back to 2026. But we see this as one of the most significant moments in gaming in the upcoming 12 months. So firstly, I just want to talk why this is so relevant. I'm going to cast your mind back to the previous Grand Theft Auto release, which is Grand Theft Auto 5. That Grand Theft Auto 5 was released 11 years ago and remains the second best-selling game of all time after Minecraft. So I just want to share a stat with you. In the first 24 hours of the launch of Grand Theft Auto 5, it made $800 million globally. That's an absolutely staggering amount of money and the biggest ever launch of any entertainment product ever. So the total revenue that we saw coming through from Grand Theft Auto 5 was 8.6 billion. And that came from a development budget of 265 million. So when we talk about this next significant cultural moment coming up, Grand Theft Auto 6, the development budget of this is rumored to be around 2 billion, which is just a crazy amount of money. When we think about an average AAA game title, that's around 70 million. So the amount of time and effort coming in to this title release is huge. And I'm sure many of you on this call have, are very much familiar with Grand Theft Auto. It was a game that I knew a lot about growing up, and I think it transcends different generations. And even now, on Twitch, we see Grand Theft Auto as in the top 3 to 5 most played games at any one time, even though it's still 11 years old. So, even older consumers such as myself, or middle older, maybe, should we say, middle age. But even with the younger generations, this is still popular. And we know that this is going to be huge, this next release. So a few predictions that I want to share with you guys. So firstly, when we saw the GTA trailer launch, we saw 93 million views of that trailer in the first 24 hours. Again, such a huge amount. And then within the first 72 hours, that was 120 million. So from a Twitch perspective, our prediction for the launch of Grand Theft Auto 6 is we predict that this is going to break that $1 million barrier within the first 24 hours, which again would obviously smash previous records and make it the biggest entertainment launch of all time. So, and our big prediction here, which probably doesn't come as too much of a surprise, is that GTA 6 will become the best-selling game of all time. So here's an example of one of the biggest moments in culture aligned to gaming. I also want to talk a little bit more about obviously who's leading the charge here, which is Gen Z. Gen Z is obviously a very critical audience when it comes to gaming. Most 92% would consider themselves gaming enthusiasts. And why this is important, because gaming, what we see with gaming now in culture, the relevance of gaming is not just coming within the gaming industry, it's actually moving across multiple different categories, including entertainment, including music, and including audio. There's a lot of different reasons why gamers are deciding to press play, deciding to log into their games. So obviously there's a number of benefits that customers can get from gaming. Enjoyment and escapism, immersion into a different world, which is important in our everyday lives. Gaming is also proven to drive critical thinking and development skills, as well as connection with others, which is something that Twitch can offer with that community feel and aspect, and also mental health benefits. So back to my previous point around gaming seamlessly interacting with different elements of entertainment and culture. I want to share a few examples here with you because I think that's really interesting. So as we move into a few different areas where gaming overlaps, so we've obviously discussed TV and film in the first part of the presentation with Francie. Gaming IP is now being used in movies and in TV shows. Obviously, we've seen the Prime Video launch of Fallout, but obviously you guys have probably heard of The Last of Us and the Minecraft movie and many, many more examples of gaming IP being used for entertainment and movies. So as you can see here, this is why gaming is becoming more and more relevant and more central to culture. Even within music, we're seeing gaming now becoming a central pillar. An example of this that we've seen is Sabrina Carpenter recently actually performed a gig on Fortnite, and she's not the first artist to do that. So I think this is really interesting to see different artists really looking to leverage different elements of gaming and culture to connect with audiences. Another example of this is around League of Legends. So they actually got Linkin Park to produce their anthem or their soundtrack for their League of Legends tournament, which again is another great overlap between gaming and music. But even in fashion and beauty, we're seeing key overlaps. So Ubisoft and Prada have done a partnership with some within game, and so has Roblox and Fenty Beauty. So we're seeing even fashion brands and beauty brands now want to be involved in that central pillar of gaming because they know how important that is to consumers. I wanted to bring up another overview here of gaming and sports. So we're seeing more and more gamers, sports star actually get involved with gaming. And we see Call of Duty bringing out athlete skins. We're seeing gaming, legendary gamers become almost sports stars. And we're seeing sports stars come to gaming platforms such as the NFL Streamer Bowl. One example that I did want to bring up with you. So I don't know if you guys have heard of this guy, Kai Cenat. He's one of the biggest streamers on Twitch. And it's really interesting because he's not just gaming on Twitch, but he's setting up streamer-led shows with celebrities, which are getting millions of views on Twitch and are really defining culture and building out cultural moments. So an example of this that I wanted to show you, which is just in the last month, Kai Cenat run his Mathiathon 3, which is effectively a streaming event where he's trying to deliver 1 million subscribers over this period. And within that time, he's invited loads of huge celebrities onto his channel. So one of those is LeBron James, who you can see here in an article. He actually cut Kai Cenat's hair live on the stream in order to get subscriptions. And he also had, obviously, Kim Kardashian, probably one of the biggest cultural icons, join his stream. So yeah, again, this is just sort of shows how gaming is really overlapping with pop culture and all other different forms of culture. So this is where Twitch comes in. Obviously, Twitch is a live streaming service that connects brands with younger audiences. Almost 70% of the audience is millennials and Gen Z adults, where gaming really is the critical and most central piece of culture. So the great thing about Twitch is viewers come here together in real time to chat, build communities, and create their own entertainment. So just as some generations come back from work and the entertainment they choose, they might log in to watch TV or stream shows. Twitch is another form of entertainment that younger consumers are coming to tune into and coming to watch. So gaming's critical here, as I've mentioned, and our content on our DNA of content on Twitch is gaming, but we also have diverse content across other different categories, such as music, such as entertainment, even cooking, and lots of other different categories. So Twitch actually dominates the global gaming live streaming market. 60% of the global live streaming market is on Twitch, and we see 46 million hours of gaming content watched per day on Twitch. So you can really see the scale here and can really understand how Twitch is an amazing place for brands to come to engage in culture and gaming in particular. So when we talk about Twitch, just a final piece that I wanted to touch on before handing over to Francie to wrap things up is just show you how brands can actually get involved on Twitch. So there's 3 key areas. The first one's media. I'm not going to talk about that in too much detail. You guys are all familiar, but a few different things I did want to talk about that can be really incredible opportunities to leverage those cultural moments are creator sponsorships and brand partnership studios. So creator sponsorships, Twitch offers brands the opportunities to work with creators to develop scalable marketing solutions around cultural moments. And then with our brand partnership team, we can actually build fully customized solutions around cultural moments, around launches, around gaming, but even around other categories to develop fully integrated solutions for brands that really resonate and connect with these audiences that we see on Twitch. So I believe this is the last slide from me. So thanks for having me. And I think Frankie's going to wrap things up for you.
I will indeed. And thank you again, Lawrence. It's cool to see Twitch. I always describe it as like the cool cousin within the Amazon family, to be honest. We can be a little bit buttoned up at times. So it's nice to have that in our arsenal. So look, probably some key takeaways. And there's a lot to unpack under the kind of Amazon canvas. But I would say for today, the key kind of themes to land is like content and stories will always remain crucial. And I think if we keep that core to our DNA, I think that will set us up for success. But the interesting development that you guys would see all the time is just the way in which we consume it continues to evolve. And if I'm at an agency or I'm at a brand, what I want to really understand is that evolution in consumption and be at the forefront of that. And if I can combine understanding that evolution with the ability to tap into key cultural moments, I think that's how brands can continue to grow in Australia, knowing that the way in which brands grow now scientifically isn't different, but the challenges for agencies are really evolved. But our kind of formula for success would be to understand these three key pillars really well. Now, I might stop sharing now. I'm conscious we've got 10 minutes or so if there are any questions, but completely understand it's a really diverse audience on here. So if you didn't want to ask questions now, but you wanted to reach out separately, you're very welcome to do that. But I'll just stop sharing now as well, if that's all right, team.
Thanks, Francie. Are there any questions? And no, we can connect you, or Francie, what's your email address and everyone can reach out?
Yeah, no worries. It is francie@amazon.com. And I'll just put it in the chat as well, just if anyone did want to kind of copy and paste it, it's there for you. And equally, so I know the team at the IMAA have it as well. But yeah, I'll put my email in the Slack if anyone does have any questions they'd like to follow up on.
Fantastic. I really think the in-purchase ads within the Amazon ecosystem is a really big development and stuff. So well done. And the Twitch stuff's great. Thanks, guys, for joining us. Just a reminder to the members, Fast Future Present event, get your tickets. They're free for you guys. There's still a few available. And please do the survey on behalf of everyone. Francie and Lawrence, thank you so much for joining us. Great partners of the IMAA and super interesting developments on your end. Thanks, members. Talk to you soon. Bye, guys.
See you, team.
Thank you. Bye.